ואחרי שנים של הפחדות, שכל גורמי הביטחון באים ואומרים, אם יהיה יהודי אחד שיתפלל, אתה זוכר את זה? אם יהיה יהודי אחד שיתפלל, כל המזרח התיכון עיוור, הכל יתהפך עלינו, כולם ישתוללו. הנה היום אלפי יהודים התפללו, רקדו, שרו, השתחוו, חברי כנסת השתחוו, הרמנו דגלי ישראל וכלום ושום דבר.
כשם שאנחנו מפוצצים פה תמונה של אל-אקצא, כך יהי רצון שנזכה באמת לפוצץ את אל-אקצא ולהקים את בית המקדש. אמן!
We don't know, maybe one of the missiles will hit the mosque and clear the place for the third Bet HaMikdash. That could also be a miracle. If it was up to me, the last time when they shot hundreds of missiles, I would pretend that one missile came from Iran and shoot it down.
So you're happy with it where it is?
No, it's going to go 100%, but I believe
it's going to go.
It's 100%, yeah. The whole thing is going to go. We have to build a temple.
When you say that Dome of the Rock has to go, MJ, it's hard for me to imagine something more incendiary.
Well, let me ask you something. The Middle East seems pretty destabilized right now, and the war, if I'm not mistaken, is already here.
Because 1917 was a miracle, 1948 was a miracle, 1967 was a miracle, 2017, the declaration of Jerusalem as the capital was a miracle, and there's no reason why the miracle of the reestablishment of the temple on the Temple Mount is not possible.
But there's a mosque on the site. My sense is that's coming to a head. Do you have any feeling about that?
I think you're right. I think the further right Israel moves, or the more hawkish it becomes, the more likely it is that will come to a head. There's no question that...
Since 67, at least 5, I'm not at all sure that not more, at least 5 attempts to remove the mosques from the Temple Mount were done by these groupings.
The question now is a practical question. What is the best place to proceed? It's not a question of whether it should be taken out, but when should it be taken out?
Before getting to the main topic of this video, how the Muslim world will consequentially react upon the destruction of the Haram Al Sharif by Zionist Israel, I want to get a couple of things out of the way. The first is to re-emphasize how much Jerusalem in general and the Haram Al Sharif in specific, notably the Aqsa Mosque and the Dome of the Rock, means to Islam and its followers. It's the third holiest site after Mecca, then Medina. It was the place where the Prophet Muhammad ascended to the heavens with a vision of the afterlife and then descended back to the Haram Sharif. We call it Al-Isra wal-Mi'raj. It was the first direction that Muslims prayed towards prior to the redirection to Mecca. So to summarize, it's of an absolute importance to all Muslims. The second point has to do with Israeli Zionists and their mindsets and intentions to remove the Haram Sharif. Here I want to highlight that Israel is on a downward spiral of immorality, supremacy, and impunity. A recipe for disaster that cares for no non-Zionist human nor their religion, including Jews. Add to that the fact that throughout Israel's existence, Israeli extremists, the same ones who are in control and driving the country forward, including their occupation forces, have repeatedly attempted to destroy many Christian and Muslim places of worship. The burning and destruction of the convent of the Sisters of Mary Reparatrix in 1948, the 1967 arson attack on the Al-Aqsa Mosque, further explosion plots in 1982, 1984, and 1986 by the Gush Imonim and Kach extremist groups, again targeting Al-Aqsa, the burning of the Church of the Multiplication in 2015, the airstrike on St. Porphyrius Church, bombardment of the Great Mosque in Gaza in 2023, and lastly, the bombing of the Holy Family Church in Gaza in 2025. So it's not a long shot to say that extremists, again, those who are in power today, and a cross-section of Israeli society shaping a significant majority of its 21st century population, are aching at the opportunity, trigger-happy, to destroy the Haram Sharif. Now add to that the importance of the Haram Sharif site to their own self-fulfilling prophecies of further supremacy and dominance, and you have the making of the conditions made ripe for such inconceivable actions. These points I make are to negate any doubts that this isn't a realistic outcome. There's no conspiracy theory here, just facts and a group of incorrigible and inhumane people willing to take repulsive steps as they wish with no accountability. So now to the point of the video. God forbid, let's say this happens. Let's say that Israel in some shape or form, be it through official players like the IDF or quote-unquote unofficial, appropriately labeled extremists or any other Zionist fanatic creation, managed to inflict significant destruction on the Haram Al Sharif site. Then what? Of course, the world will be in shock. Politically and diplomatically, the world will erupt, east, west, north, south. All will have great sympathy for the Muslim faithful. That's obviously the first step, condemnation from everyone. But will Israel be condemned? Most likely not. Israel will immediately claim events were out of its hands, where it was also shocked and surprised like everyone else. Exactly like October 2023 when Hamas took Israel by surprise. Again, a victim to the efforts of other dark players, labeling such an event as a false flag operation or maybe an act of terrorism. This, though, counts for naught. From the Muslim world's perspective, there's only one guilty party, the same party that has dehumanized Arabs and Muslims over many generations, who has been the source of much death and suffering across the Muslim world for 8 decades. So the jury will be out, and with this conviction will come fury and rage from the entirety of the Muslim populations, and an expectation of its leaders and governments to take the next logical step. The curious thing here, though, is what will be the plausible reaction by the Arabs or Muslims? What can they do to confront Israel? Can they even retaliate? Considering Israel is a nuclear proliferated nation with enough warheads to wipe out the entire Muslim world. I really do appreciate you taking the time and watching the Kandidi Chronicles. Please do join our community by subscribing so that you don't miss out on any content regarding the Arab and Muslim history, identity, and modern condition. And if you really do enjoy the channel week in and week out and would like to support us even further, please do join us at our YouTube membership program as well as on Patreon. Thanks again. I should clarify here that there are 2 distinct groups of reactionaries. There are leaders and governments of the various Muslim nations, and then there are the masses, the Muslim believer base. The biggest difference between the two is patience, and the two will most likely have 2 variously different methods in response, severely at odds with each other. Those in power will calculate, strategize, and maneuver to ascertain the best path forward, should they warrant taking any response, whether diplomatically through international law or by taking sovereign initiative and returning the aggression. Should the diplomatic venue be the option, let me just clarify here by saying that this choice will probably be the one most encouraged by leaderships, then the Muslim world will seek all kinds of actions from the international agencies, the United Nations, the International Court of Justice, the International Criminal Court, and any other possible venues. There are 57 Muslim nations, that's roughly 30% of the world's countries, a significant number that will most likely speak in one voice through the OIC, the Organization for Islamic Countries. Many non-Muslim nations from the rest of the world will probably join in this effort. They'll look to impose sanctions on Israel and enact reparations in the hope that Israel will finally be held to account. This will take time, maybe too much time. And then, of course, there's the perpetual American veto waiting to happen. Waiting on the sidelines are the Muslim people. They won't have time. They'll demand the opposite with zero patience, screaming for an impassioned call to action with an unnegotiable end goal, the destruction of Israel through military answer. And this military action is a burden that will first lay heavily with enormous expectations on nations immediately adjacent to Israel itself: Egypt, Jordan, Saudi Arabia, Syria, and Turkey, mostly the Arab Muslim leading countries. Theoretically, the state of physical proximity offers faster reaction and better hopes of conventional military effectiveness, and hence, logistically, the Muslim world will look to these nations in setting the precedent. In the immediate aftermath, nations further out, like the rest of the Gulf, Iran, Pakistan, Algeria, Morocco, and even further out, like Bangladesh, Malaysia, Indonesia, will have lesser military options to respond and support with, as any reaction will require time for any mobilization. The major concern with this dilemma between slow-paced diplomacy and immediate military response is the element of time. Nations can wait, their peoples can't. Protests in either case will erupt, even prior to any logical and realistic response times. Initially, these protests will be in reaction to the event of the destruction of the Haram Al Sharif and in calling out Israel regarding its evil deed. Then onwards, Muslims will growingly demand of their governments steps and actions that governments might not want to take. And here is the crux of the problem. What such a scenario represents is the potential tensions between leadership or governments and their peoples. Should leadership be timid and weak in response, signifying an almost surrender, then the problem becomes internal and not an international crisis. And if the desired actions appear to be a long shot, the targets of these protests will shift from Israel to the leaderships of the Arab nations themselves. What happens in this scenario is that the attention of these Muslim nations shifts away from Israel itself. The power of these strongest Arab and Muslim geopolitical players in West Asia will diminish as their internal stability starts to be threatened. My concern is that Israel probably recognizes this equation and might try to push for the realization of this scenario, triggering Muslim uproar to further destabilize Muslim countries within its immediate orbit. It's not beyond Israel to think this way. Iraq, Syria, Libya, and Iran are prime examples in further achieving its hegemony across the region, by creating chaos within nations that are dealing with internal instability, fracture, and discord. Again, I want to restate this fact. This is not a conspiracy theory. This is a representation of facts taking into account what Israel has done in the past and what a large portion of its in-power majority of society is claiming it should and will do, both present and future, and what such a step means to them ideologically. And this, to be clear, has nothing to do with the notion of a rebuilding of the Third Temple, although it does indeed serve the narrative. Muslims today should recognize that this is a converging outcome. As they say, all roads lead to Rome. In this case, all roads lead to the deplorable Zionist final solution in the destruction of the Haram Al Sharif, where the entire Muslim world could become toothless and weakened, a streak of paper tigers with their third most sacred location in ruin. Remember what Netanyahu said.
The question now is a practical question. What is the best place to proceed? It's not a question of whether it should be taken out, but when should it be taken out?
So Muslim nations, wake up. Putting up a unified front against a reckless Zionist Israel, if unrealized and left unchecked, will lead us down this eventual destructive path. Having the foresight to observe all these signs is not optional, it's a necessity. We can't wait to act when it will no longer be a negotiation of geopolitical or socioeconomic interest and stability, but a crisis when faith is questioned and the defense of that faith is left unanswered.